Successful senior startup entrepreneurs talent hunt personally on the junior startup entrepreneurs with core technology. Startup incubation program TIPS provides know-hows to successfully develop your startup by working in one space. Hello, my name is Unju Park, Deputy Director at Small and Medium Business Administration. Let me introduce you all about TIPS, a way to successfully build your startup. When you see successful entrepreneurs, you would often think, how did they succeed? I want to know the secret. I proudly present the government-funded project, TIPS Startup Supporting Program. TIPS is an acronym word, which stands for Tech Incubator Program for Startup. It is a program for pre-startup entrepreneurs to successfully build their startup with essential tips. Who teaches these crucial lessons of core tips and know-hows? They are the senior startup entrepreneurs. Those already with notable outcome on their hands select out promising junior entrepreneurs, coach them step by step like personal tutors. Now you'd be curious on what kind of support the senior entrepreneurs can do. First, the senior entrepreneur invests 100 million Korean won on the junior startup. Yes, you heard it right, 100 million won. Moreover, the Korean government also funds you for your startup's development. Junior startups that are selected and evaluated as having advanced tech receive financial aids for marketing and development purposes. The total amount of the funding is 900 million Korean won. Second, you are provided with mentoring services. For a maximum of 3 years, senior startups become mentors of the pre-startup entrepreneurs and deliver all the know-hows you need for building your startup. One question on this moment, you might have these thoughts. Thank you for your investment, but there's nothing that's for free. What do I have to pay for? Listen up, folks. You, the junior startup, would need to provide certain amount of the company's equity to the senior startup that invested in your company. What? I'm giving away my equity? I'm not losing my startup for this, right? You may have a lot of doubts and worries, but fear not. There is nothing to worry about. TIPS restricts in any circumstances the investor senior startup having more than 40% of the maximum equity acquired. You would be safe to run your startup with over 60% of the equity in your hands. As in reality, current junior startups participating in TIPS program, in average, owns more than 85% of the company's equity. Since you receive financial aids from the government, now it's time to learn how you return it back. If your startup runs well, getting future investments, or getting acquired after the program, and decided as a successful startup, you need to return back 40% of the total funding you received from the government. How are you going to pay back all 40%? No worries. After the mentoring session ends with the senior entrepreneurs, you pay back 3% of the annual sales each year until it fills up to 40% of the total aids. One more thing. Not everyone needs to pay back the funding. This is only if your startup is evaluated as successful. In other terms, if your startup did your best, but evaluated as failed, you'll be exempt from paying back the funding. This would be the best support the government can provide for the pre-startup entrepreneurs. TIPS program, which directly links up successful senior startups with junior startups by providing financial funding, tech, and know-hows. This TIPS project started in the year 2013, and in 2 years, 90 startups were selected and already receiving various supports. But there was one problem. With more and more startups newly created, there were less and less spaces to incubate them all. So the startups directly requested on more spaces for them to work in. The government answered the request with bigger, better incubation space. This is how TIPS Town was created. TIPS Town is the space where TIPS startups, angel investors, and the senior startups all work together. Where is this TIPS town located? In the heart of Gangnam area. Then why Gangnam? This is because the startups have strongly insisted on the location. Since the 90s, already many of the corporations started to work in the area, creating Tehran Valley. With the center location between Guro and Pyeonggyo, makes Gangnam a dream place for all tech-based entrepreneurs. Also, 30 startups were already located in Yeoksam area with business incubator nearby. The Korean government created 4 more incubation spaces. These buildings are the core essence of TIPS town, located nearby Yeoksam subway station. Main building already has 25 startups, moved in creating more values. S2, S3, S4 buildings near the main building are getting prepared to let more startups move in. Google Campus, Maru 180, and D Camp, all of these awesome places are nearby. If you are interested in starting a tech startup, remember Gangnam area is being transformed into the new Startup Valley. So how can I be working in TIPS town? The answer lies with being selected to the program. If you are selected as TIPS Startup Team, you will be first in line to being able to enter TIPS town. Here are the ways to get selected for the program. Basically, TIPS Startup Program selects startups with designated TIPS partner organizations. One major point to note on. Listen carefully on how to be selected. Investment, recommendation, evaluation. These 3 things are things you need to remember. When one of the 18 TIPS partner organizations invests in your startup and recommends you for TIPS program, experts in TIPS evaluate on your startup service and finally get selected. As you can see, this definitely is a smart win-win project, right? Tech Startup District TIPS Town with newly started startups and successful senior startups. TIPS Town provides all the tech startups and general public variety of perks and information. Want to find out what would be given as perks for the startups that had won the fierce competition getting into TIPS Town? Number 1, the working space. Every startup will be provided with separated working space. Furthermore, the space has everything you need from cafe on the first floor, sleep room and 5th floor, meeting rooms in every floor. Number 2, one-stop administrative support. You are fully supported with coordinators, managers from Korea Institute of Startup and Entrepreneurship Development, officials from Gangnam District Office. You can get all the help you need on administrative needs and complaints in one place. Number 3, you get newly updated startup industry news faster than anyone. Large networking hall in the basement of the building hosts various events invited with guests from startup industry. These events with star players in the field would lead you to access on the up-to-date information and creating strong relationships. One of the founders got investments after the events. Getting more interested? Final perks, last but not least, the synergy effect caused by the competition between the startups. This necessary competition for the startups would continuously create upgraded technology. Additionally, this competitive environment brings in more talent from all over the nation, building up very intriguing site for talent acquisition. Variety of things happen here in TIPS Town. Are there people thinking, I'm just a regular college student, I'm just a homemaker, but I would like to visit? TIPS Town's doors are wide open for everyone. There is a sightseeing program created only at TIPS Town for young students, college students to pre-startup entrepreneurs. A special opportunity for you to experience tech startups from A to Z. This is the tech shop in the main building of TIPS Town. Here, you can become a maker using 3D printers and scanners, participate as a one-day entrepreneur. One more thing. You can also meet the startup investors located in Tipstown. Are angel investors that are helping the entrepreneurs and residents with their tips. Tipstown is the place where you can expect the life-changing meetup with these investors. You can also expect a memorable meetup with the senior entrepreneurs that may become a lifetime mentor for your business. One last thing. You may also meet your peer entrepreneurs that are dreaming the same thing as you are. Entrepreneurs with similar interests or even different ideas gather around like destiny and can build an awesome startup of your dreams here at Tipstown. Tipstown with so many chances and opportunities. Why don't you start your chance by visiting Tipstown? Your secure and solid way to start your startup, Tips Incubation Program. You can get further information from the webpage. Thank you for watching. This was Unju Park from SMBA.